What's up, everyone? Welcome to day 7 of my brand new small account challenge of growing a $2,000 account using Charles Schwab as my broker. Today is a green day. Now, if you've been tuning in to this series, you may know that yesterday, day 6, was a red day. But fortunately, between yesterday, day 6, and today, we had a weekend. So today's Monday morning. This was an opportunity for me to kind of reset over the weekend, bring the emotions down a little bit, and come back here Monday morning refreshed. And so for me, oftentimes the day after a red day can be a fork in the road. I could do one of two things. I can either come back swinging hard, revenge trading, really frustrated, and have a second red day in a row. And usually when that happens, the second red day is even bigger than the first because I'm taking bigger positions to try to make back all of the previous day's loss very quickly. But if the market's not strong, I end up with a second big red day. It could even go on for 3, 4, 5, 6 red days in a row. I mean, you never know. If you don't want to stop, you just keep coming back with that same mentality of, I'm just going to make back the loss. You get stubborn. When you trade like that, you end up losing a lot of money. And so the weekend was helpful. It was an opportunity to kind of put some space between me and that red day and come back this morning and be patient. And so when I sat down this morning, I reminded myself that, you know what? Even though I had a red day on day 6, I've still made a lot of progress in this challenge. And the best way for me to get back on track is to go back to focusing on the best quality setups. Because if you recall from day 6, one of the issues was that I was trading a stock that didn't meet all 5 pillars of stock selection. The price was too low. It just wasn't quite right. So today, things turned around in a pretty big way. We had a stock that squeezed up over 250%. Now, this one was kind of interesting because the stock has popped up a couple times in the last few trading sessions, popped up and reversed, popped up and reversed. Today was different. It popped up, it held, it trapped early short sellers, and then it squeezed as they got forced to cover. And so as we jump into the recap, this will be an interesting discussion about what was different today that allowed the stock to continue moving higher instead of reject like it had the previous trading sessions. Okay, so as you guys know, all of the profit from these small account challenges gets donated to charity, and every time you guys hit the thumbs up, you help add an extra $1 to how much I donate. So as of right now, we've raised over $321,000 for charity. This is my 4th small account challenge here in this series of trading with a $2,000 account. Now, these are the different charities that we've donated to, and I've donated a total of $319,500 so far. So I'm waiting till we get to the next $5,000 increment to do the next donation. All right, so day 7. This morning, we had a stock that popped up on the scanner, as you can see right here, and the ticker is NXTS. Priced at $9.21 in this, when I grabbed this screenshot. The float is less than 1 million shares. We've got a percentage gain of 81%. Now, at this moment, we had a couple other stocks that were up more. This was not the number one leading gainer. We had Getty, which was up 128%. We had TNON, which was up 90%, 67 cent stock, though a little too cheap. We had SAGT up 58%. We had NXTS here at about 57%. It sort of dipped down when I grabbed the screenshot, and then it kind of rallied back up. So at this point, it wasn't the leading gainer. Now, what you may know is that I really like trading a stock that is the leading gainer in the market because that makes me feel that it is the most obvious, that everyone's going to be looking at it. So when a stock is the 5th or 6th or 7th leading gainer, kind of down lower on the scan, I feel that it's not as obvious. Now, today, this was a challenge because Getty was already up 128%. So in order for something to be more obvious, it had to be up, in theory, more than 128%. So if I pull up a chart here, we're just going to look briefly at a couple of the other stocks that were leading the way, and then we'll get into my trade on NXTS. So Getty, G-E-T-Y, this one had popped up at about 4 in the morning. There was some news out on it, but then after that initial pop, it just kind of started stair-stepping down. So this really never presented an opportunity for a trade unless you were sitting down at 4 in the morning. So although it was the leading gainer, I think if anyone pulled it up, they would say, this isn't really that obvious. I probably shouldn't be trading this. So although, again, leading gainer, easy to dismiss that as not being the one that people would focus on. TNON, second leading gainer. Now, this one had made a big move in after hours in the previous session last week, and then popped up a little bit at 4 a.m. and then sold off. So for most of pre-market, I think it was fair to say that this was also not super obvious as it was trading in this area below this orange line, which is the volume weighted average price. When a stock is below the volume weighted average price, it's inherently bearish, above it is bullish, and trade most of the morning below it until at 8 a.m. it got above it, then back below it, and then back above it here just after the opening bell. So it's possible that TNON did take a little bit of attention because there were some moments where it was a bit more bullish. The next one down was SAGT, up 58%, squeezed up in after hours trading in the last session, moved higher at 4 a.m. and then started just stair-stepping down. So because that was stair-stepping down, this one was no good for all of pre-market. And so I sat here during the pre-market session, just patiently waiting to see if anything would hit our scanners that looked good. And so I'm using my small cap high-a-day momentum scanner right here. And what this is doing is it's searching the entire market in real time for stocks that meet my 5 pillars of stock selection. Now, it casts a little bit of a wider net, and then it gives me a chance to sort of do a discretionary analysis of deciding which one is really worth consideration. So at about 8:25 a.m., NXTS hits our scanner. So NXTS hits the scanner, and I'll pull up my other chart here to show this to you. So when NXTS first hits my scanner, you can see this is the move from $4 or $5 a share all the way up to just under 20 bucks. It's phenomenal. When it first hit my scanner, I pulled it up and I see, okay, this is a, they've got an AI, kind of mitochondrial drug discovery headline. So it seems like, biotech type of stock. The sector says materials and agriculture, but that doesn't really reign true with what we're seeing in these headlines. So when this first pops up, I look at the chart. I've got it on full screen like this. And I noticed that in the last couple days here, these 2 days, it had, some volume. Now, this is something I noticed. When a stock recently has had almost no volume, and then today has a ton of volume, it creates a greater imbalance between supply and demand. The relative volume ratio is higher, and the relative volume measures the volume today versus a typical day. And so when I saw that, I remembered actually that, yes, this stock had popped up a couple times in the previous trading sessions. And look at this. This is a day where it popped from 7 all the way up to 12 and drops down. Ends up red on the day. Another day here goes from 5 to 9 all the way back to 5. So when it first popped up, I was thinking, well, can we really trust it? And then I thought, what was different about those days? And one of the things that was different about these 2 days is that we had a lot of other stocks popping up on those days. And so this stock was fighting for attention with a lot of other stocks that were moving. Today, there really wasn't anything else moving at the time that this popped up. And I think that was really to its advantage. Now, it did have a headline that came out, so it had breaking news, which is good. And when it first popped up right here, I let it pop up. It goes up to, from 480 to 5, little micro pullback here from 6, goes up to 680, then goes up to a high of 740. It dips down, and I took my first trade on this little pullback right there. So that was my first entry. It ends up squeezing up to 8. I take my profit off the table as it pushes higher. It dips down again. It goes higher. I'm kind of regretting selling, but I'm glad that I made money on it. It then goes down, and it goes below the volume weighted average price, that important trend line. And then it comes back above it right here. And as it swings back above it, we go right back to this high of 9. Now, I didn't feel quite confident enough to punch it right there because of the previous rejection on the other days where it just kept going lower. But once it started to base out here, I started to buy right as it would break back over VWAP, and I was looking for the squeeze through the high. So I took one trade here, green, second trade here, green, and my third trade here was red. So now I've taken a total of 3 trades on the stock. All right, so the 3 trades down here, and right in here, and this one resulted in being red. So after those 3 trades, I was green, but I was thinking, maybe I should take my foot off the gas. At that point, I was up about, I think it was $600. So I'd made a little bit of profit. And then on the loss, it was not a big loss, maybe $50 loss, which is fine. But I thought maybe this is, as good as it's going to get. And then it pulls back again. It breaks below VWAP a second time, or in more kind of earnest, it really is below it. Then it comes back up here and it rips all the way back up to 950. Now, I had previously said I thought we would see resistance at around 939. So why did I say $9.39? Well, if we look at this chart right here, and we look at this previous high back here, looks like I clicked it a little bit off. So the high there was actually 945. So 945 was, I quickly drew a line there, and it looks like I didn't snap it to the top of that candle. So I said 939, but it should have been 945. That was the correct spot to the penny. So 945 was the high here, and then I said if we can break that level, we've got room up to the high of this candle wick, which is 1075, and then we've got room up to the high of this candle, which is $12 a share. And then above that, we have no resistance. So if we can get above any, at least not any nearby. So if we can get above 12, we're in great shape. Now, during pre-market, we end up trading in this kind of area right here. So we dip back down, and I'm just going to switch this to the 1 minute time frame just to make it easy. So switch to the 1 minute. So we end up breaking back over 950 right here, and this is where I took my 4th trade, and it squeezes up to 11, which was an awesome trade. Although, because it's more expensive, I couldn't afford very many shares, and so the total profit that I made on it was somewhat limited. But at that point, it put me up a little over $1,000. Ends up dipping down, coming back up. I took a few more trades in this area in my main account, but not in the small account because I didn't feel that I could really manage my risk. Then at the open, we squeeze through this pre-market high right here. We break 12. We go up to that high. We do a micro pullback, and we squeeze up. We halt for 5 minutes on a volatility circuit breaker halt. We then resume. We go into a second halt. Then we resume, we go up to almost a third halt, we dip back down to 15, we rally back up to 1950, and now we're sort of sitting right here in between this range. An amazing move, some really strong momentum on this one. Now, typically I'll say that when I'm trading, I look for, and this is the 1 minute chart, but if we look at the 5 minute chart, and I was paying attention to the 5 minute chart on this because it was giving me some, I've got to switch the time frame here. It was giving us some nice signals. So typically I expect a nice pullback on the first and second pullback. So this is our first pullback right here, and this is our second pullback. And I was a little disappointed that the breakout on the second pullback here was smaller than the breakout on the first pullback. Sometimes when you see that happen, that the breakouts are getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, eventually they just roll over. So it was unexpected that this third breakout was so strong, from 10 all the way up to nearly $20 a share, an incredible move. But I think it speaks to the fact that short sellers got stuck on this one because they had a bias based on the last couple trading sessions. But one of the things that can be confusing is that while the underlying catalyst on this stock may not have been significantly stronger than the headlines on the previous day, today, this was the most obvious stock in the market. And being the most obvious stock in the market is what allowed it to gain this amount of volume and continue squeezing higher and now be up over 250% on the day. So some really phenomenal price action on this one. Again, my total positions were around 400, 500 shares. So I wasn't really able to take big size on this. I mean, I actually could have taken bigger size, but slightly bigger, but not that much bigger. So in total, we end up getting this phenomenal move, and I'm up $1,037.24, putting my account now just over $8,000 in total equity. I started with $2,000, which means I've made $6,000 of profit. The account's up 300% here in 7 days. 14 trades, 11 winners, 3 losers, 78% accuracy, and average winning trade or average gain per trade is $430.38. Now, if you had joined our 2-week trial a couple weeks ago, you would have been able to watch all of this live in real time, seeing my positions window, seeing as I'm getting in, as I'm getting out. And so if you haven't already, make sure you check out the 2-week trial with the link posted in the top of the description and pinned to the top of the comments. I'll remind you guys as always that trading is risky. My results aren't typical, so please manage your risk, take it slow, and always practice in a simulator before putting real money on the line. I will see you guys for day 8 streaming at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning.